It started the way most unsettling things start, with something small enough that you almost dismiss it. A friend tagged me in a comment on Instagram. Not on my account, on someone else's. She'd written, "Is this you?" with 3 question marks, which is the punctuation of someone who already suspects the answer and doesn't like it. I clicked the profile. The account had been active for 14 months, 312 followers, 89 posts. The name was not my name, a variation, slightly different, the kind of difference that makes you look twice. The profile photo was my face, a photo I recognized. My own photo, from my own account, from about 2 years ago. I scrolled, post after post, photo after photo. Some of them were mine, directly lifted from my public profile, my face, my life. But some of them weren't. Some of them were photos I'd never posted publicly. Photos taken inside my apartment. Photos of me in places I recognized, my kitchen, my living room, the view from my bedroom window, that I had never shared anywhere. Not on social media, not in messages, not with anyone. I sat with that for a long time. Then I looked more carefully at the captions. The account had built a life around my face. A fictional name, a fictional city, a fictional job. Followers who apparently believed they were following a real person, commenting on posts, wishing her happy birthday, asking questions she answered. 14 months of fabricated existence, wearing my face, built from a combination of my public photos and photographs that had no business existing anywhere. I counted the photos I'd never taken. There were 11 of them. I reported the account to the platform immediately, filled out the impersonation form, selected every relevant category, uploaded my ID as requested. The automated response said my report had been received and would be reviewed within 3 to 5 business days. I called my sister while I was waiting. She's practical, works in finance, not easily rattled. I sent her the profile link and she went through it while we were on the phone. She was quiet for longer than I expected. Then she said, "The photo from your kitchen, the one with the blue mug on the counter." I said yes. She said, "I can see your fridge calendar in the background. You can read the month." I hadn't noticed that. I went back and looked. She was right. My wall calendar, in the background, the month visible. October. The photo had been posted in October, 14 months ago, which meant the account had started roughly around the time that photo was taken. Whoever had been inside my apartment taking photographs of my life had started this account almost immediately after. I'm going to be honest about what I did next because I think it matters. My first instinct was to try to figure out who it was myself. I went back through the account and looked at every detail, the location tags, the comments, the followers. The location tags were in a city I didn't live in. The followers were mostly real people, nothing suspicious. The comments from the account itself were generic enough to give nothing away, the kind of language that's been smoothed of any identifying texture, deliberately or naturally. But the 11 photos, I had to figure out where they came from. Not because I could do anything with the information, but because I needed to understand how someone had been inside my apartment. Whether it was once or multiple times, whether it was recent. I went through them carefully. Most were taken at angles that suggested the photographer was trying not to be noticed. Slightly off-center, caught in a corner of the frame rather than the subject of it. Opportunistic, not staged. The blue mug photo was the clearest. The others were more incidental. And then I found one that told me something I hadn't expected. One of the 11 photos was taken from outside, from the street below my apartment window, looking up. It was taken at night, which made the window bright against the dark, and through the window you could see me, sitting at my desk, working. I recognized the angle. I'd seen an angle like it before. I lived on the third floor. To get that shot, someone would have had to be standing directly across the street, using a zoom lens or a good camera phone, at a time when I was at my desk at night. That photo was posted 8 months ago, which meant 8 months ago someone had been standing outside my building in the dark, photographing me through my window, and I had had no idea. The platform took 6 days, not 3 to 5, to respond to my report. When they did, the response said the account had been reviewed and did not violate community guidelines. I read that sentence 3 times. I filed a second report, more detailed, attaching screenshots of the photos I had never taken, explaining that these were images taken inside my private residence without my knowledge or consent. I got the same response, different wording, 4 days later. I contacted a lawyer friend who told me I had a legitimate case, but that pursuing it would take time and money, and the platform had legal teams specifically designed to slow these things down. He said the more immediate concern was the person who had been in my apartment. I said I knew. He said, "Do you know how they got in?" I said no. He said, "Then that's what you need to figure out." I talked to my building manager, explained the situation, showed him the photos on my phone. He was sympathetic and uncomfortable in equal measure, the kind of uncomfortable that comes from realizing something happened in a building he was responsible for. He pulled the entry logs for the building. Electronic key fob system, every entry and exit recorded with a timestamp and fob ID. He went back 14 months, the length of the account's activity, and looked for any entries to my floor that weren't mine or the building maintenance fob. He found 3. 3 entries to my floor, spread over 14 months, using a fob registered to a former tenant, someone who had moved out 2 years before the account was created, whose fob should have been deactivated when they left. The building manager said, "We deactivated it. I can see the deactivation in the log." I said, "But it shows up as used." He said, "Yes," which meant someone had a copy, or had cloned it, or had found a gap in the deactivation process that a building manager at a mid-sized residential building in a mid-sized city would not necessarily have the technical knowledge to identify or close. 3 entries. I don't know which visits produced which photos. I don't know if those were the only visits or just the ones that left a record. The account came down about 3 weeks after my first report. Not because the platform acted, but because enough of my followers mass reported it in a coordinated effort after I posted about it publicly. It was gone within a day of me sharing the profile link. 14 months of someone else's constructed life, deleted in 24 hours. I want to tell you that felt like resolution. It didn't. The account was gone. The photos still existed, somewhere, on whatever device had taken them. The person who had built that account, who had been in my apartment 3 times over 14 months, who had stood on the street at night photographing me through my window. They were still wherever they'd always been. The account closing didn't change any of that. It just meant they'd lost the platform. Detective Reyes, the same detective I mentioned in another story, which tells you something about the kind of year I was having, told me that without a clear suspect, digital impersonation cases are difficult to prosecute. The fob clone, if that's what it was, would require a technical investigation that depended on the building's cooperation and the age of the system. She was honest with me. These cases are hard. She filed the report. She followed up twice. Nothing came of it, at least not that I was told. I changed my locks. I got a security camera for my front door. I audited every piece of information I'd ever put online and tightened everything I could. I moved 6 months later, not because of this specifically, but it was part of the calculation. I've thought a lot about the 14-month timeline, about the patience of it. Whoever did this didn't rush. They built slowly, a post here, a post there, a life assembled piece by piece over more than a year. They were careful enough that the face was mine, but the details were different. Careful enough that the platform's automated systems didn't flag it for more than a year. And the visits to my apartment were spread out. 3 over 14 months. Not frequent enough to increase the risk of being seen. Just enough to get what they needed. That's not obsession in the frantic sense. That's something more methodical. Something that could maintain itself quietly alongside a normal life. A job, a routine, whatever else filled the hours. Something patient enough to wait. I don't know what they wanted. And that's the question I can't answer and can't stop asking. The account wasn't monetized. It didn't have enough followers to be significant. It wasn't trying to scam anyone as far as I could tell. It was just a life. Someone else's constructed version of my life, running parallel to the real one for 14 months. Maybe it was practice. Maybe it was something I don't have a category for. Maybe the goal was the construction itself, not anything that came after. I find that possibility the least comfortable of all. Here is what I want you to take from this, practically. Search your own name on every platform you don't use. Search your face using reverse image search tools. They're free, they take 30 seconds, and most people have never done it. Check what's out there wearing your face that you didn't put there. Most of you will find nothing. That's the expected result, and it's the right one. But some of you won't. And the sooner you know, the sooner you can act, and the less time something like this has had to run. The account that used my face existed for 14 months before my friend saw it by accident. 14 months. If she hadn't been scrolling at the right moment, hadn't recognized me, hadn't sent that message with 3 question marks, I don't know how much longer it would have run. I don't know what came next in that timeline. I'm glad I don't know, but I think about it. Search your face. Do it tonight.